And here it is.
Hi, everybody. I think we're live.
I think we are.
Welcome, welcome. And I think we have Wendy and Karen possibly in the background to support us today. So,
Okay.
welcome, everybody. Let us know if you're here. That would be great. You can just drop us a line in the chat to say hello from wherever you're calling from. It seems like from everyone that I've been hearing from, there is this wicked something major storm that's coming across like both our countries. I'm supposed to be getting it tomorrow night and Saturday. So maybe say where you are in the chat and if this somehow has already affected you. I hear it's storm followed by a drop in temperature. So what's it like where you are, Coach Elise?
Yeah. Well, it's very soupy outside where I am. And so,
Soupy.
yes, just kind of foggy, low visibility, wet, damp. And I can feel the temperature starting to drop a little bit.
Oh,
But
already.
I don't
Okay.
think we will get the major drop until Saturday. So that's a good thing, but it's right on the heels of Christmas, so that's a lot of fun. I think we'll even get a little bit of snow, of course, where you are, we all get tickled pink. We just have a little dusting of snow, so and we
Yeah.
all act like we're freezing. So
Oh no, that's
I don't,
good.
we're so far apart, kind of with temperatures, you and I, that we're silly,
Yep.
compared to what you really manage to deal with all the time. So, but anyway, so ladies, yeah, storm warnings, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see people here. Hi, Julie. Hi, Karina. Storm warning in Montreal. Oh, so you're just, Karina's just about 2.5 hours, 3 hours east of me.
Okay.
And Montreal can get quite a different significance with just where the St. Lawrence is and everything. As we get further north into Quebec, it gets pretty nasty up there. So you stay warm, Karina, and stay safe.
I
Hi,
think
Karen.
warm
Nice
is
to meet you.
relative. Like,
Yeah. Hi
where
from
you are.
Huntsville.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
it's true. So we're here today on behalf of Coach Leanne. So if you did get that email and it said Leanne was joining you today, I hope you're not disappointed.
Great. I thought that
I
too.
love getting together with any of my colleagues, and I'm so blessed to be able to be here with Elise today. I'm so happy that we could do this together leading into Christmas. And that being said, we are here to talk today about how to prepare or get through some of these tough holidays that we have just quickly approaching us. So, yeah, what does that speak to you about off the top of your head?
Yeah. Are you asking them or me?
No, I'm asking you, and then we'll
Yeah,
ask them what they
yeah,
think
yeah,
too.
yeah. And so, do you know what I'm finding is that I think everyone faces on some level some tough holiday, right? If it's not an in-law, it's a sibling, it's a spouse, I think that these are very, and probably always have been. I don't know that we're any different than the last generation or the past generation, right? We don't have an active war outside of Ukraine going on right now or anything, but I think that this holiday season has both delight and joy and grief and tough. When Uncle so and so or Mama so and so, drinks too much or is always, negative or is always unkind in someone's words or, we have siblings or whatever is going up. I think that I don't think anyone's exempt from a tough holiday. And certainly we know that the population of women that we work with, we kind of already know and assume on some level what your tough holiday may be.
Mhm.
But please kind of know, and my hope is that you're comforted a little bit in the fact that no one is exempt from that, and we are so fooled by and tormented by social media and all the commercials and all the lovely, and it is hard. I think that's just something that's hard to fight when
Mhm.
nobody's going to put on a commercial, a tough holiday.
Yeah.
So our minds and our hearts see, and Hallmark, sees all the beauty and the wonder and it's hard not to develop that longing for it to be beautiful and wonderful. And so we know that, and that's why we really want to talk about that today. How will we step into this tough part, whatever it is that you've been called to as far as tough? And
Yeah.
what will that look like? And the truth is, I think that we can add to our suffering. And so that's one of the things that I would like to bring today is that we make sure that, like kind of our primary suffering is enough, or our primary grief that we have to. Several years ago, I lost a loved one. And so this is a third holiday that I'm in without him. And that's a great grief. And our holidays will never be the same. And I didn't know the holiday that we had him last would be the last holiday we would have
That's
him,
right.
right?
That's right.
And so we don't know what our holidays are. Is this the last holiday that we'll have with a loved one? Or is this and so really stepping into our own tough. And do we add to that primary suffering, or do we kind of say, hey, it's a tough holiday. We're going to identify tough. What do I need to do about it?
Yeah. So before we dive into that, I just want to again welcome anyone that's just joining us as we are doing, a bit more, not quite a deep dive, but as much as we can to touch on to help support you prepare and maybe get through some of the difficult days ahead, knowing that it's Christmas season. I do want to mention that this is on Leslie's public Facebook page, as well as going through YouTube. So we welcome anyone, men, women alike, that may be joining in with us. I think we can all have tough holidays. It's not separated out by gender by any means. And also, to feel comfortable as much as you can posting in the comments, but know that other people may be able to see them. So you can maybe perhaps just generalize what your comments are if you don't want to be too specific to your own situation, or maybe post on behalf of a friend, that sort of thing, because we do want this to be engaging and we do want to hear from you. And so as we do get into this, and I like what, Elise, what you're saying is that there's the primary reasons, the Hallmark Channel kind of ideology or maybe just those dreams that we've ever had, or maybe of Christmases gone by that are now significantly different for whatever reason.
Right.
I want to talk about what those primary, more say, can we dare say, obvious reasons might be.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I love the fact that there's sometimes stuff that we can maybe bring on to ourselves.
Yes.
As those secondary reasons. So as we're starting to introduce more of this topic, I guess I would invite everyone to maybe just, again, don't necessarily speak to your own situation, but just put into the chat what you think could be really hard. Step into your empathy.
Right.
When you don't know what someone else might be going through this Christmas, maybe just quickly jot into the chat what could be really tough for somebody this holiday season, just either for yourself or for someone else, a stranger on the street or someone that in your church surroundings, just so that we can maybe touch on, and Elise and I will kind of keep our eye on the chat as well as the questions that Karen's jotting down for us as well, so that we can maybe really address this in the short time we have before Christmas is right upon us. So Elise, let's go back to maybe what you were thinking were some of the primary reasons before we get into the secondary. What do you think pops up? You already mentioned grieving.
Right. Well, and I think it's all a grief, if we don't have, our adult children at home, you and I have adult children now. So if we don't have our adult children at home, they're spending their time with their in-laws and not with us. And, I know a lot of friends that we're on this every other year rotation. Right. And so now that we're, I'm moving into this I'm not moving into, I've been in actually quite a while, but, in this empty nest, but I have grandchildren. I love when they're there, and they're at the stage where it makes Christmas so fun. So, I think in general, it's loss on any level, the loss of, maybe this year you're separated. Maybe this year you are divorced. Maybe this year you are without a loved one. Maybe this year you are without, this is the alternating year. So it can be kind of lost, big or small, but primarily lost nonetheless. Right. And so, but the loss comes in a lot of different flavors, and we know that.
Something I throw in there too, just it's definitely relationships that always speaks to us, and especially in the work that we do. But I want to speak to financially as well. Because it could be a loss in the terms of a change of our marital situations or separation. It could be the loss of a job recently. I know times have been tough with COVID, and we're kind of, as I'm hearing, the rumblings of a recession possibly, and we might want to be a little more conscious of what we spend this year. So I'm very well aware that financially we're not always able to do what we would dream we would be able to do, or again, when we compare against what we see on TV or something like that. I want to just acknowledge that financially speaking, this can be very tough too. So very much the relational stuff, financial as well, maybe physical changes in our health that don't allow us to embark on the same traditions that we once did. I know one season, Elise, I had injured my back that summer camping where I lifted too much firewood at once. And it was still by that Christmas, I could not stand for longer than 20 minutes if I was lucky. Right. And so to stand at my kitchen island where I used to and do all this baking, not only for my loved ones, but to engage when my kids were little, I couldn't do it the same way. And that broke my heart. And that was from nothing else had changed in my world, thankfully, at that time. But my physical well-being had changed.
Right.
So just wanted to introduce those things. But I think the hardest part, if I'm hearing, is really the relational. So let's talk about that for sure.
Well, yeah. But, I think that you make a really good point, and that stretches us out in our thinking that, some people really may be coming to this holiday with, a different financial situation than they had last year for whatever reason. Right. And so, or a health reason. So again, I think one of the things that makes it tough, I think the bigger picture is loss. And so what does that loss look like for you? What does it really mean? And it may be the loss of just, through back to relational, through a divorce, that I will only have my kids this, on Christmas Eve, not Christmas morning, and I had them at Thanksgiving, whatever the rotation is. And so just kind of stepping into that this year it's different. Right. And so it doesn't mean that we begin to acclimate to some of these losses and we weave in new traditions. And that's kind of one of the things that I would like to talk about a little bit too, as we go forward with, how do we manage the loss? How do we step into tough, right? Because we have choices. And, but I wanted to kind of throw a big blanket that most people, even, if it's a sweet holiday and everybody's gathering, there's likely some loss in every holiday. I mean, in every Christmas family on some level. So, but anyway, let's glance at some of the, some of the comments, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You go ahead. You can start.
Yeah. First year separated, lost my dad last year. Pastor this year, you lost your pastor, fighting through the grief of it all. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yes, a loss of income as a divorced person, sure. Means skinnier Christmases for the kids and adult kids from me, but not my ex. There it is, So my adult kids are going to be, not with me, but with my ex. What would that look like? Decorating our new space, every room with kids on Christmas Eve, since Christmas Day, they will be with dad. Right. Yeah. So we've gone through all this, and yet they're not really going to be with us on Christmas. And so health issues. It's cold in Alberta.
So, let's talk about loss of summer. The loss of balmy weather. I mean, not everybody, and all kidding aside, I mean, some people don't do well with the cold. I love winter, and it's not just because I'm Canadian. I really do. But the seasonal affective disorder, I know we just passed the longest night. That's right. I do pray for those that do have difficulties with the limited daylight hours we have at this time of year, that things will literally start getting brighter as of today. So, a change of seasons can be hard on us too, right? Just different feelings, different smells in the air can be very triggering, that type of thing. So, COVID last year and flu this year. Yes.
There it is. There's the health piece. Like we thought we were all going to get together, and now the health piece got in the way.
That's right.
After those years of COVID. I mean, what a disappointment that is. Absolutely, that's tough. Yeah. My father passed away the day after Christmas while he was sleeping. He didn't do well in family settings because of his dementia. So I was unable to get to him that Christmas. Yeah. And so I mean, so Christmas will really be marked with an anniversary, not just those who have lost throughout the year, but lost right on top of Christmas. And so that's really, really quite a challenge. I mean, Christmases will never be different without thinking of your father and that loss. So ladies, I'm so glad you're participating. It is hard. Last year COVID, this year flu. Definitely have health issues. So One, I was thinking either we could kind of like, pose you are welcome to ask a question around this subject.
Mhm.
How might you navigate that tough? And maybe we can help step into that. The other question I was thinking about is what have you thought to do? Kind of the
Yeah.
choices for a better Christmas for you. Have you really been able to sit down and think about that?
Mhm.
Um, and so, are you starting any new traditions, in
Yeah.
this tough time? So
Mhm.
which direction would you want to go, or would you want to go another direction?
Well, no, I like both. So, as Karen's already invited everyone to post your comments into the comments, and
Mhm,
then, or into, sorry, not into the comments, but Karen, I think, posted a link to, for those that are listening in,
mhm,
to
mhm,
https://
mhm,
leslievernick.com/question. And that
mhm,
takes us to a place that we can gather all the questions so they don't get lost all in the comments. And then she posts those for Elise and I, and I've got them on the running here. So we'll definitely take time to look at those as best we can. But I really do love the idea, Elise, of, we've kind of established, and thankfully to everyone that's been posting in the comments, we've
mhm,
kind of established what that loss looks like in
mhm,
various forms. And we've talked about the finances, the physical, the emotional, the whether it's a physical death or the death of a marriage,
mhm,
change in situation, could be a change in housing, something like
mhm,
that. So I
mhm.
love the idea of we springboard from that and we spiral upwards
Yeah,
towards what can we do with this. You said we have choices.
right.
So let's hear some ideas both in the comments, and let's you and I kind of walk around all those different elements of spiritual, physical, emotional,
Mhm,
those types of things as to what we can do that is within our control
mhm,
to maybe change our outcome, our perspective, and
mhm,
maybe make this not so heavy as
mhm.
we prepare going in and get through these next few days. What do you
Right,
think?
right. Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind, is, I was speaking with someone, a while back about some financial changes in her life, through loss, and she was saying, "Gosh, I just don't have the resources this year." But she's a very, very talented writer, and I thought, I wonder what would it look like because of your own giftings, just to write, a kind note.
Mm,
These loved ones, that are kind of in her family circle. And we really had a pause around that in a beautiful way. And she began to because, like we just tend to get locked into this is the way I do it, or this is the way, if I don't do it this way, there'll be a disappointment. Right? But just the thought of creating something different for her, and
mhm.
again, the sweetness of using her own talents. Somebody said to me about writing something, I could do it certainly, but that's not my strength. And so that wouldn't sound quite as desirable to me. Like, let's come up with
Yeah.
another one. Um, but yeah, well, I mean, she kind of settled on that a little bit. So that wasn't going to cost her anything.
I love that. Yeah, put in your ideas too from a financial perspective. Someone used the word skinnier.
I like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could be happy about that idea.
Right.
Yeah, put into the chat some really great ideas about upholding our whatever Christmas means to us, but being a little more conscious of the money side of things. So
Right.
creating a gift from our own talents. I mean, God gave us those.
Right.
What
Right.
better way to honor him
Right.
than to showcase them, right? I love that idea. I picture
Mhm.
I just our pastor just talked about, how God did bring in that tradition of gift giving despite our materialism and commercialism of our current
The
culture,
overload of it, right.
right? But he really did do a nice deeper dive into, the significance of what the three wise men were bringing and that
Mhm.
idea. But I also picture the little drummer boy. He brought I don't know that a newly, a new mom, lack of sleep and having just traveled all that way on a donkey would like a drummer at that point in time. But I mean, when I just think of little Christmas stories like that,
Right.
right? He gave his talent. It was just,
Right.
it's something like that. So yeah, put into your into the chat some of the ideas about that. I love that idea. I've also, speaking of which, from a food perspective, I know a lot of people, if you look at the price of food right now and the inflation, I think a lot of us may have, depending on where you're tuning in from, a lot of us here in North America are hearing on the news the price of lettuce, for crying out loud. I've heard all kinds of stories on the news that a head of lettuce can be, well, I know our dollar is different, but up here I saw it yesterday for organic, just iceberg lettuce was $7.99 Canadian. So it might be a little different for you guys, but that's just, it's usually $1.99, $2.99.
Right.
That's, I'm talking in the winter. So
Right.
that's crazy. But what I've heard of people doing, instead of one person putting on this fabulous feast that can get pricey at the best of times, let alone right now, is that if you aren't used to doing potluck kind of idea, is that this is the year so that everyone is spreading around both the cost and the effort, plus the electricity or gas that it costs to prepare these things, and pooling all of their food resources. So if you're not used to being that type and you're used to being the hostess with the mostess, this might be the season where you could ask and have a little fun with it and see what everyone brings as a food dish or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Barb says, first holiday without narcissistic family, feeling really, really good about this decision.
Yep.
So maybe she's not grieving.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another area that might be tough for her, but I think it sounds like she's feeling a sense of freedom, which, thanks, Barb, for sharing that. And I'm glad that you're free of, the tether of a really the most challenging relationship and family. Yes, absolutely. So we rejoice with you. Okay, so we're talking about a question, really struggling with financial health issues and grieving. Mary says, wow, got a lot going on. So, we put so much expectation on this holiday, I think on many holidays, this one in particular. And so maybe just a little, kind of a peep into that as well is like, what are the expectations I'm setting and why? Right? Why have I said that I have to cook the entire meal? Why have I said that I have to show up with, all these gifts for all these relatives, right? And what's the expectation that that a note isn't as good as as a gift card, right?
That's right.
What's that thinking? And so one of the things is we can really kind of pause and like, what am I telling myself about this situation? Maybe that's where some of our angst is coming from. Can I slow up my thoughts down just a little bit and say, is that true? Is, I mean, is a gift card can be wonderful, but a handwritten note is a treasure. And my guess is if you're giving it to younger people, they might not know that at the time, but if they keep any of these things, they will look back at a beautiful handwritten note. I mean, how many of you keep handwritten notes? Oh, for sure. I have a really hard time, kind of parting with a handwritten note. It is really such a gift, right? And so, but if my own heart's expectation is this, and this doesn't happen, or this isn't gonna happen, and I can begin to feel the tension, I'm gonna start, there's naturally my feelings of discouragement are gonna begin to follow that. Expectations are not gonna be met. Now what? Ooh,
Yes.
I'm gonna feel really, really discouraged. So let's, kind of also think about, kind of we're maybe traveling a little too fast here, but, kind of weave this in a little bit about our own expectations because that's going to bring loss. I'm not going to get that.
That's right. That's right. And a way to catch yourself in those thoughts that do have those expectations attached is sometimes if you hear yourself saying, I have to, any of those things, those types of words, I need to, if you hear yourself saying those things or even speaking them out loud, those are often judgments, self or over a situation that you are placing.
Mhm.
And who are we to judge? Because your idea of what I have to do may be different. Like Elise's idea of what she has to do for Christmas may be very different than mine. And
Mhm.
so who is right and wrong? No one. It's just different.
Right.
And so if you do struggle, and it is a bit of a flurry of thoughts and sort of emotions going on inside you, if you catch yourself saying I need to or I have to, that's often a cue. Not always, but often a cue to kind of go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who says? Who says I have to show up with all those gifts? Who says I have to have the perfectly browned turkey like you see in a Norman Rockwell painting or whatever that may be? It's, get those in check.
Right.
And that's what we often talk about. So let's just pause here for a second as we introduce this concept of maybe holding our thoughts
Mhm.
captive, and what we might want to do to maybe rejig those a little bit. And
Mhm.
this is one exercise that we walk you through as we go through an upcoming group that we have coming this winter. It's
Mhm.
actually just starting the week of January 9th. So you're not too late to join us. It's called Empowered to Change. And just as of this morning, we got notice that we do have a few spots left, but otherwise
Very
we've filled up many, many classes this year. So we're very blessed to be able
Mhm.
to walk alongside small groups of only 15 women at the most per class with one of the coaches that you probably know from us speaking here on through Leslie's team. And it's called Empowered to Change. And so we do invite you to join us as we go through a 6-month idea. And it doesn't have to be about anything in particular, it's wherever you want to change. And we walk through not just this exercise that we're just introducing right now about holding your thoughts captive and how to maybe reframe those, but so much more, Elise.
Mhm.
And so it's a 6-month thing. So we get to stay together as a formidable group, same women, same coach every 2 weeks
Right.
for 6 months. It's so powerful. So you've taught this. This is my first year teaching it,
Oh,
but I got to shadow along with you last year. So
you're
tell
right.
us a little bit about your experience with Empowered to Change, and then we'll come back to our way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
thoughts.
No, I have taught it several times, and it's really, it's just a delight. I love when we are, forming new classes. I hate when the classes are over. It's really a sad, because there is so much intimacy in the group as we get to know one another. And one thing that we shifted to, in the last couple, classes is doing these breakout sessions. And if you've spent much time with Leslie now, we're certainly acclimating our, kind of our whole, group, support group and everything around this, is that we want you to get to know one another well, that I'm not just, or Jen's not, or the other coaches are not just going to be the one speaking and facilitating. We want to invite you. We want you to know us, and we want to know you, and we want you to know others. So this concept of knowing and being known is
Mhm.
really what intimacy is all about. And we are working very hard, not only in the knowing piece, but as we engage in the content, because you'll still hear Leslie teach this content. We have handouts around that. And as we engage in this content, that you not take it just from here, because I don't know about y'all, but on some level, I'm pretty flooded with content right now.
Yes.
You know, can find it anywhere on the internet. And I mean, now I'm very used to. I remember when Google came out, and me kind of like not using it a lot, and then using it more and more, and then more and more. And now, how common is Google for us? Like the second I don't know something, I Google it, right? And so, only if I could have dreamed up that idea. But and so so our we have so much information, but we are really committed to transformation with this group, that there's going to be application. And that's really our heart's desire, that you are empowered to do something different, to change whatever that change is for you. And we spend a lot of time, we ask a lot of questions before we all meet for the first time, so that the coaches all get to know you just a little bit before we step in, so that you begin to identify what that change looks like. How do you want to be different in 6 months? Right. And so the content is beautiful. And it's really, I mean, it was kind of triggered off for Jen by saying that we spend a little bit of time of this self-awareness, like, what am I telling myself? And how many lies am I living in? Right. And so we're telling ourselves these itsy bitsy teeny weeny lies. I mean, we don't say we lie to ourselves, but we're telling ourselves stories all the time that really aren't true. Right. And so I'm helping my husband move, from his office last night. And I don't know what it was he said, but I hated him something. And whatever he thought the transaction was, I said, no, that's not it. It's this. Right. And so, but the appearance, whatever the transaction was, he thought it was something, and it was something totally different. And that was just that one moment in time that he reacted against what his thoughts told him. And it wasn't, that wasn't the case at all. And ladies, we do that all the time. And so I'm going to kind of just interject personally here just a little bit. If I began to pack up my own office this morning because we're moving 2 floors down, 2 floors. We're moving down to the second floor. I'm in a very high, big high rise, and I've often kind of not necessarily bragged, but just delighted in this view that I have out my window. And so when we talk about loss, I'm moving from a 7-story view, beautiful view, to a 2nd-story view overlooking our parking garage. So I am losing, today, even as we speak. It's not really around the holidays, but we're always walking into loss, and then we get to choose how we want to be in that. And these are some of the things that we're going to teach you in Empower to Change. That this can, I mean, I haven't been thrilled about it. I have to be honest with you, but I can let this moment form me, or I can let it deform me, right? I can stay grumpy. I can stay mad about it. I can look out at that concrete wall now instead of the woods like I look out, and stay in that state. Or I can accept that I was the one that said, yes, I could move somewhere else. I had a different choice, but I want to stay with the group that I'm with, that I have a different choice. And so, ladies, we really want you to do it differently, right? I think you feel and you sense wanting to do it differently, and we're going to empower you. It will be up to you, but we're going to empower you to do it differently. And so we would love for you to join us.
Yeah.
As we move forward. So.
No, that's great. So I love, love, love that you use that word transformation. It is so beautiful. And, we've often heard that metaphor of the caterpillar transforming into the butterfly. And honestly, it's true. Right. It's true. You get to use this content at your own pace. We do have classes every 2 weeks that we do talk about it, but it's yours to use when you're ready. Or, as I always say, like, how the Bible scripture could just hit you differently after the 10th millionth time you've read it. Same thing with some of this content. It might just rock your world in a different way, and that'll help transform you at your own pace while being supported with a group of other women. But as we use that word transform, let's go back to what we were talking about, those expectations, okay, in helping us manage and prepare for these tough times. Right. So when we were talking about our thoughts and the ones that come in, I have to prepare all this food, or I have to make sure I get to see everybody and go to church and do this and run myself ragged. I have to. What would you suggest then we do to help transform those thoughts so that we're not caught up in that overwhelm?
You want to answer that? Yeah. I didn't know if you're asking the audience or if you're asking.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear from everyone to talk about that, but
I would as well. One of the things that I think we have to do, really, number one, and I was just talking about it, is drop these expectations. There is so much pressure on that. My mother-in-law expects this. My husband-in-law expects that. My husband expects this, and so pressure, right? And where is that coming from? And do we have a voice? And we can teach you that in Empower to Change as well. Is that we want you to be able to use your voice and say, wow, I'm at my limit here, right? And are the expectations coming from my heart, or is it coming from internally? Is it coming from externally upon me? And really be able to look at that. And so can I begin to say, wow, can I begin to release those expectations and say, I'm actually going to step into the best that I can do, so that I actually can delight in the gift of Christmas, right? In the birth of our Savior, right? And our culture almost forbids it, that we can do that. The pressure is so great. The force is so great away from that, right?
Mhm.
And so I love your sign behind you, Jen. It's so beautiful, that we almost
Oh, it's a little.
don't get the opportunity to adore him,
There we go.
right? I love
Come, let us. There. Now we can.
right? But and so we have to work at that opportunity to really celebrate the birth of our Savior, right? To adore him and adore this season. And so, can we kind of slow down and say, wait, well, what are these other expectations? Are they eternal and external, internal? What might I do with those so that I can delight in, potentially even participate in the real meaning of Christmas, and then embrace love of my family, friends, loved ones. But also, I want to say we need to really embrace expectation limitations are pretty close, but our own limitations,
Yes.
right? As Jen was saying, there was a Christmas where she was limited by her health. She's not limited this Christmas. She can stand at that counter and bake, which I'm expecting some cookies.
I'll send them.
Right? And so, my family knows not to expect that from me. I'm not a baker. I'm not even a slice and bake girl, but I'm gonna step into some other things, but knowing your limitations, so big. Watch those expectations, know our limitations. Are they health limitations? Are they financial limitations?
Mhm.
Right? Are they emotional limitations?
Yeah.
There's just some people that are hard to be around. Let's own it.
Mhm.
And I've had to commit, like, I'll go, but I'm gonna stay for so long. Maybe I need to drive my own car. Maybe I need to, right, that I don't have to stay that long because everyone else expects it.
Mhm.
I have to steward myself first and foremost.
That's right.
And maybe I can stretch myself a little longer. That might be okay too. But you
I
have
love
to know
that.
yourself.
No, I love that you brought that up because it does lend us towards that choice and that
Mhm.
preparation that we can take control of because limitations are God given. We don't have to get down about the limitations that we have. Like even going back to my example of that back injury that I had where it would just ache so much if I had to stand too long.
Mhm.
Oh gosh, I forgot that my husband had this higher stool, like a higher type bar stool that he used to play guitar on their worship team. So I went upstairs and got it, and it allowed me to sit up higher at the counter so I could sit. And didn't do all the baking that I normally do, but I was able to sit and peel carrots
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
my family would bring stuff to me and I could sit and I could do it. So I recognized what my limitations were.
Right.
And I may have a pity party for a hot minute. And then I decide, no, 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 this is not how I want to show up at Christmas time.
Mhm.
Big circle. We talk about our big circle, how God's called us to be. And so I had choices. And those were the choices that I made. But recognizing what our limits are is something we can do to prepare
Mhm.
and also maybe do away with some of those expectations because
Right.
we know expectation breeds resentment,
Mhm.
expectations of others or expectations that we put on ourselves.
Mhm.
So limitations are put on us by God too. He knows that we can only do so much without proper food and water,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Exactly. And
Sleep.
so just being able to recognize our expectations,
Mm-hmm.
being able to step into our limitations,
Mm-hmm.
not go on a path of like, whoa, this might be doable, right? And then
Yeah.
really, let's just, ladies, Scripture tells us in Matthew 6:34 that we're not to borrow troubles from tomorrow because today has enough of their own.
Thank
So
you.
really are called to this day. And today's the 22nd, it's not the 25th, and we can all feel the pressure of, the 22nd, the time is getting close.
Mm-hmm.
But can we stay in this moment? Can we stay in our own reality? My reality isn't Jen's reality.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of commonalities, we share a lot of space together, but it's still a different reality. Can I stay within my own reality, right? Of what I'm capable of doing, how I will manage my expectations. And so I think that that's a really, really important piece. And I often share just kind of briefly that I have a moment in time that I had a wise person say to me, one time, Elise, you're going to have to just take one day at a time. And I remember I didn't really like that person for a moment. Like,
don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, but it's the message, right?
I like that counsel so much. And but it really became a part of my life, because what I began to realize is that that's how I was going to manage the tough moment that I was in. And I was in a really sticky, tough time. And his counsel was really, it sounded so simple. I'm like, I'm a planner. I need to know what's ahead. I like certainty. And that's that wasn't where God had me. But he said, I'll give you today. That's all you know. That's all you need to know. You get overwhelmed if we're trying to look down the pike of the future, right? What can you do today? And so let me gift that to you all today as well, is that, God has just given us today. We're not going to borrow troubles from tomorrow. We can prepare for tomorrow, but let's don't get in a narrative and then Uncle so-and-so, and then my mother-in-law, and then aunt,
what if this happens? Or
right. Right. But it's okay to plan, to have a safety plan around some of these people or some of these events. Please have a safety plan. If you're going to have someone in your home that's going to drink too much, and they're going to get not nice, right? How you might excuse yourself or excuse them, or how you might not ride home with someone who is not sober, and encourage them that you would be a driver. There's all we can plan and prepare. But when we lock and engage on expectations, this is our secondary suffering. This is when we add to what's already a tough time. So let's be super aware of that. And so let's go back. So those are kind of my little bit of tips.
No, I love that. I want to bring up too, if I may, because you've talked about it, about being present. And part of that being present, at least my practice. Okay. So when I do get caught up in the moment, like in not a good way, right, have some of those expectations, or something just doesn't go quite my way or whatever, I reach out to gratitude. It's something you can do in the moment. It's something you can do in your head. No one else has to know. Like if you're just, and Nicole had already brought this up before I even had a chance to. So I want to read what Nicole said for those that are only able to listen in right now. Nicole Rose writes to us, watch our expectations and know our limitations. We can choose to manage both. Take time to pause and spend time focusing on the greatest gift, Jesus. Be grateful in his love, provision, and peace, receiving from him who I need instead of others who are limited to be who I would like them to be. Release myself from unrealistic expectations.
Right.
Thank you. Right. And, just being grateful can, when I got into life coaching, I have to say, I'll be honest, as I always am, but I'll be perfectly honest, right? Some of the life coaching stuff I heard, Elise, was really hokey to me. Just woo-hoo, hokey. I was just like going from nursing to life coaching. I was like, what? Like just that. And one of those things was, not that I was ever an ungrateful person, but this idea of practicing gratitude always kind of made me go, what are you talking about? Oh my gosh, it works, people. It works. It can transform your heart. If you do just step into it, even if you were like me and a little sort of a naysayer towards it, oh my goodness, it works. It works. It changes your heart so quickly. When even I can tell you, even in my darkest days, for some of you know my story, I was able to just go, even if the sun came up that day and that's all I could be grateful for, I was still grateful for that. And it did give me a little bit of spark. Right. So I'm going to ask you all to just dump into the comments, just one word things, everything that you're grateful for right now. Let's fill the feed with all those things of gratitude, because that can shift our mindset and help us manage those expectations and shift out of maybe some of that disappointment, some of that heartache, some of that loss. Right. And show us what we are grateful for. Right. I think that would be really great.
Yeah. What would you say, Jen? Just something you're grateful for today?
Oh my gosh. My new space. So some of you know I've just downsized from my home just a couple of weeks ago into a much smaller condo. But
Oh,
I am telling you right now, I am so grateful. I know Elise was like, "Oh my gosh, you even already put up a Christmas tree
like,
and stuff,"
girl.
and I was sharing pictures. I love it. I can tell you, it's so much to talk about managing things. I was Christmas on steroids in all of my previous years, and it got to the point where it got to be too much for me. It
Mhm,
really did.
mhm,
This year, I'm celebrating because it's a smaller space to decorate, smaller
mhm,
space. I'm hosting 12 people tonight.
mhm.
You
Wow.
know, just
Well, it's not
moved.
that small then.
Well, no, it's not in my condo. We're borrowing the
Oh,
common space, but I'm
okay.
hosting, I'm cooking all the food, I'm doing everything. But when you ask me seriously, I am so grateful for the
Mhm,
blessings of this space, of
mhm,
the people that I'm welcoming into our new home tonight, that we get to celebrate and share this with people, that I have the mental and physical capacity to host this many people
mhm.
because my environment is smaller and I'm no longer overwhelmed.
Right.
So thank you so much for asking me, because I am rejoicing. I really am on
I
so many
know.
levels. What
I know.
about you?
It's been so
What?
fun to watch you know, the transformation and
Yeah,
move. It's
yeah.
really been a lot of fun to watch. I might say I might speak into space as well.
Mhm.
Oddly enough, is that I'm grateful for the time that I had in this space, and it's truthfully, it's a little bit of a sacred space for me. It's really brought me a tremendous amount of peace and comfort, and for myself and also for my clients. And so, but I'm also grateful for the space that I'm going to. It's brand new and just been totally remodeled, and also kind of working out of this COVID time. One of the things in our industry is that people got comfortable with Zoom.
Yes, I was actually
So,
happy about that.
yeah, and on some level, but people are also returning back to the office,
Mhm.
and that I have a space that's really beautiful and welcoming, and I'm so grateful for that. I am so grateful for that. And so there's
Yeah.
many, 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 many things, and sometimes and I don't know what it's like in your weather, but I like these. I'm really kind of a sunshine girl. I grew up in Florida. I'm a native Floridian, and so I love sunshine. And when I first moved here, it rained for 45 days. When I married my husband, it rained for 45 days solid. And I didn't even know what seasonal affect disorder was at that time. But my mood went as a native Floridian girl, right? But as I've lived here over the years, I enjoy these foggy days because they are very, very calm. You can tell just the energy, even in nature, goes down, and there's some softness about it. Now it can get dreary, no doubt. If the days go on and on and on without sunshine. But I think that there's some peace. And so I'm actually going to say, even in this, soupy day, I see so much beauty, and I'm calmed in my spirit by this soupy day. So
Yeah.
let us know. How about
Yeah,
you?
I want to hear. So, we'll turn to questions here in a moment, because we really do only have just over 10 minutes left together today. I can
Mhm.
go over a little bit if we need to, but before we I've got the questions pulled up here, but let's see what people have written some
Yeah.
already. So, what are you seeing in the
Yeah.
comments there, Elise?
Yeah, grateful for her community of friends. Yes, thank be to God who love
Yeah.
me through everything, Larry. That's a real gift. Yeah, air in my lungs and food in the fridge. You bet. You bet. Absolutely. Being able to walk, move freely, eat, see, hear, touch. 100%. There are people right now, even probably, within our earshot, and, that are struggling to walk. Mobility is a beautiful, beautiful thing to be grateful for, and to be able to move around. Yeah, for breathing. Amen. Heart of gratitude has always helped me too. It shifts my mindset.
Mhm.
Yeah, from pity, from the pity party. You're right. And I'm with Jen a little bit. We've had to engage, at different things for different, continuing eds or something. We get grateful, and I'm always like, yeah, yeah, here we go. Right. And then, as we go around the room, it gets my turn, and I can always come up with something. We go around the room, and all of a sudden, I can sense my mood changing as I
Mhm.
just kind of rest in it. And I'm kinda like with you, I'm like, "I think this is starting to transform me, and I don't even want it to. I don't like this," and
I
so
know it
a
works.
lot
It
of
works.
really provision, one word, provision. Thanks be to God, yes, our provision, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, if He's provided through others and or, through whatever resource, it is His provision. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
a heated home, a
Yeah.
comfortable bed, food and sunshine.
I'm
Oh, grandbaby here in Arizona.
Yeah,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Fireplace is working, yes. And for those that don't have an actual fireplace, I think it's more and more common now that even if you go on YouTube or on your television, there is a fireplace channel.
I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh. And some of them you can wait and they poke it and it's very realistic. So turn on the fireplace channel, even if you just need something to look at. Fire is quite mesmerizing for sure. So that's great. Keep flooding the feed, please, because for those that watch this later, or if you are watching later, the comments are still accessible. So keep putting in everything that you're grateful for, because as other people come back and they're not quite in the headspace that we're already in, the heart space that we're now in for talking gratitude, you're going to raise their spirits. So keep putting that stuff in there. But let's turn to some questions in the time that we have left. Is that okay, Elise? Okay, so I'll read it and give you a chance to respond, and then I'll see if there's anything I can add. Okay, so the first one, and thank you, Karen, by the way, for all your hard work putting these in here. I'm getting to the place after 10 years of abuse and betrayal with no acknowledgement of need to change, where I am just done. I have no feelings for him anymore. How do I deal with the guilt? We have 3 kids together, and my heart breaks for them thinking of a divorced home. But I can't go on any longer living with this man. Christmas just magnifies all of this. Yeah.
Go. You're welcome to start, and I'll join in.
Yeah, my heart goes with you, or goes out to you for sure. I mean, that's a transformation in and of itself. I can only imagine what you've been through within those 10 years. 10 years is a number, but I know every millisecond of those 10 years could have been very difficult for you. And, when there's no acknowledgement of that need to change or to make things better, we then do settle into okay, this is as good as it's going to get. And you're recognizing now, as you've gone through this change, that you don't have any feelings for him. So with the feelings of guilt, I would, call that into check. Sometimes you can reach out to trusted friends or reach out to one of us in this capacity. And guilt, my definition of guilt, is often as said by Brene Brown, is I've done something bad. And so, as Elise was talking earlier, I might take that thought captive and really run that through. What has it been that you've done bad? And I know we haven't always made great choices when we've been in abusive situations. I get that, and here's our place to own it and make amends or do whatever we need to do. But, really question, well, why am I guilty? And see if there's a way that you can kind of come out and recognize what the real truth is, the capital T truth. How does God see you in this abusive situation, even with the 3 kids that you have together? Like, what is it that really brings that forward to you? And what is it that you can do to kind of get onto the other side of that, whether it's something like gratitude or holding that thought captive, and recognizing what your limits are. As you say, you can no longer go ahead with this, living with this man. So recognize those limits and see what it is that's within your power to change things for yourself instead of waiting for him to acknowledge it or change. What would you add to that, Elise?
Yeah, what did she say about the children? She said something at the end.
We have 3 kids together, and my heart breaks for them thinking of a divorced home.
Sure, of course. And yeah, I would really speak into, I'm sure in your, I don't know what her name is, but you're not alone.
No, we don't have any.
At all in this situation. Matter of fact, I think that we could put a kind of a capital T around that, of thinking of our children, in this divorce situation. And I think the beauty, it may not be perfect at all, but the beauty of younger people and children is that they do acclimate, right? And so, living in that situation may be uncomfortable for a while and difficult and, clunky. But we can kind of either add to the toughness, or we can begin to equip them in the toughness. And so that would be my call a little bit, is that this is a time that this is going to be a tough Christmas or a tough holiday. It may be tough again next year. We don't know. But how will we equip them if they can sense from us kind of the burden of it being a tough holiday, right? But we can also begin to equip them into learning into doing something different. What choices do they have as they spend time with their dad? What choices do they have when they have, when you have them? Right. And so, you can't, speak into what dad may do, with them, but you will have all the privilege of what they will do when they were with you, right? And so making their holiday with you a wonderful holiday to the best of your ability,
Mhm.
right? Financial ability or just, limited time ability, right? And so one of the things is that we get so burdened and, kind of tethered and bound up in, how our children will feel. And that's a beautiful thing. It's kind of what love is screaming right there, is that you want the best for them. And that's what
Mhm.
love is. Right. And so, but walking into and living in the limitations of what we have around that, so that we can choose the best that we can in that moment, instead of being ruminating in what they're not going to get.
Yeah. I'll just add one more thing before we move on to the next one, with the idea of Christmas just magnifies all of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for today. This hour has been devoted to knowing that this is a tough season for
Mhm.
everyone to navigate for a whole bunch of different reasons. And I want to put maybe just, I don't know if this is the right word, but a slightly different spin to that.
Mhm.
So I know what I think you mean when you say it magnifies all of this, makes it all that much more painful, because it is riddled with expectations and traditions and things that you're anticipating a divorce will have an
Right.
impact on. I
Right.
also challenge all of us to take moments like this, whether when we do feel like it's magnified, to recognize what is magnified and maybe take that time to journal, because in essence, there's that baseline stuff, the foundations are all the same.
They are.
It does take a magnifying glass to it. So use that to your advantage. What is it magnifying? And maybe just journal it. And maybe Christmas season isn't the time to go into a deep dive on that, but journal it and maybe put it aside so that you can go back to it and go, okay, Christmas really brought this out for me. That really is what's going on with me.
Mhm.
So, and it'll give you something to consider going into the new year, ways you want to be different, joining a coaching group like we have coming up with Empowered to Change,
Mhm.
or, getting some one-on-one support, or going to a sister in church, or whatever the case may be. So use it to your advantage
Yeah.
to maybe journal some of those magnifications down,
Right.
if you will.
Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So the next question is, my marriage is really struggling. My family lives in another country. His family is broken and we don't get along. I feel I only have my daughter, but I'm struggling to be strong for her when everything else seems dark.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna deny that those are tough, what you've got going on. Not Family's not close, his family's broken, you guys aren't, getting along at all, and your love is saying, "But I want it to still be sweet for my daughter," right?
Yeah.
And so these are those moments, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that these are the crucibles, these are the moments where these tough times will either form us or deform us. And Leslie really, this thread she spends all the time for us is that we have choices in this moment. And so I can let my husband's bad mood ruin it. I can let my husband's, I mean, and I'm not speaking for my own husband, I'm just speaking in general, globally, we can let, alcohol ruin it. We can let all kinds of things
Mhm.
like ruin it, or we can begin to decide, how might I make this the best that I can make it? And I will let them make their own Christmas. If they don't want to be happy, that belongs to them.
Yeah.
But if I would like to participate in bringing about delight to my daughter's Christmas, I can do that.
Mhm.
I have that choice. If he interferes, that's on him. That may happen.
Mhm.
That doesn't belong to me. I may be saddened by it. But as much as it depends on me, what do I have the ability to do instead of being overwhelmed, by the influences of others?
Mhm.
Take
Yeah. I
control,
love that.
informed by this experience.
Yeah. And all I would add to that too, is when you're looking at struggling to be strong, I get it. We all get weary for all kinds of different reasons. And what I would encourage any of us to do is look for areas first, maybe where we're already strong, because we're not completely depleted in all areas of our life. I challenge anyone to tell me that they are. Because in all honesty, you go around what I call, or what coaches call, the wheel of life. So if you're just trying to pick off some things, so look where you're strong, if you're strong at all, like how strong you are financially. Maybe it's not even about, I'm not talking about the money in your bank account, just maybe you're a good steward of your money. Maybe you like to donate money. Like, where are your strength, and where does your heart attach to that? So where are you strong financially? Where are you strong spiritually? How are you strong physically? How are you strong emotionally, mentally, socially? Okay. And wherever you're strongest, maybe tap into some of that strength to bolster up some of the other areas. But where you're not, what would it take you to move up a notch in those areas? So spiritually, if you're not feeling all that strong, what are we going to tell you to do? Pray, open up that good book, right, of the Bible. Read, get into that scripture. That's going to strengthen you. Absolutely. Talk to a trusted Christian sister, something like that. Attending church this holiday season might strengthen you spiritually. Physically, hey, let's be honest here. We need to keep ourselves nourished with intake of water and food. We need to get the proper sleep to stay strong for others as well as for ourselves. So I won't go into that, but really challenge yourself where you're strong, tap into those areas of which you are, and then look into, okay, so I'm not so strong over here. What is one small thing I can do to take that up a notch? And don't overdo it, but acknowledge that you can do something with those choices that Elise just shared. So, okay, we're just at the top of the hour. Are you okay to stay for one more?
I will probably have to step off. I do have a client. But I would love, Linda says, I'm going to be by myself watching the beginning of a blizzard outside, making fudge for gifts. Now the apartment neighbors are going to, are going to share, and that I'm going to share, I guess, with them instead. I guess my life is what I make it. Thank you for the wise advice and support.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that's a perfect time and place to end. It's all what we make it. It's all within what God has given us, and God has given us so many different things.
Yeah.
I want to wish you all the very merriest of Christmases. Elise, my dear friend and colleague, thank you. This year of 2022, getting to know you even better has just been such a blessing to me. So thank you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Make it your own, people. And let's hear next week, when we all come back together on some of our Facebook Lives, how things really did go well for us.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll say goodbye for now. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Karen. Merry Christmas to you too. Bye.